Hey, do you like coffee? Do you like gourmet coffee? Do you like really amazing gourmet coffee that's a total steal and just happens to be based on a culinary podcast? Well, look no further. The Coarse Grind Podcast has teamed up with the Mr. G Coffee Company to create the perfect custom blend. Dark as the logo itself with hints of caramel, sea salt, and dark chocolate, it is luxury in a cup at an incredible price. Be sure to check out their site today, MrGCoffee.com, and order some now.
Hi, this is Chef Nene Lynn from Top Chef Kentucky. Please tune in to Shawn Rosler's The Coarse Grind Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is episode number 93 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. With you, as always, this evening, host creator Shawn Rosler. How is everyone doing? You know, if you're a hyena, God, stick with me on this intro, guys. I promise it's going somewhere. If you're a hyena, or a hippo, or a gazelle, all right, any animal from the savannah, and you find a watering hole that's constantly full of water and free of predators, you keep going back to it, right? No question. No, I didn't eat the wrong kind of mushroom, and I'm sitting here hallucinating in the studio and thinking it's the plains of Africa. I swear to God that didn't happen. I'm just trying to say that when something is always there, always what you need, you go back to it. And so, cue my praise of Top Chef, specifically this season, Kentucky. All seasons have, and I believe will continue to be, the mecca of culinary competition. But this season in particular has been beyond measure in talent. I'm not just saying that because all three OGs from Last Chance Kitchen were on the show before. But tonight's guest, again, a perfect representation of that very skill level. Tonight's guest prides himself on creating an authentic, progressive, yet approachable menu. One that highlights the seasonally fresh ingredients available in the Midwest with classic and modern techniques alike. His goal is to craft thoughtfully unique plates that are relevant anywhere in the culinary world, but accessible to locals in Dubuque, Iowa. Hint, hint. Born and raised in Galena, Illinois, our guest attended the Le Cordon Bleu of Culinary Arts in Minneapolis, Minnesota. His past culinary experience includes the Hotel Sofitel's fine dining restaurant, La Fugace, the acclaimed restaurant Danielle in New York City, and a 6-year stint as the executive sous of Diamond Joe. In 2014, he received first place at the Taste of Elegance competition and competed in the National Pork Summit. Oh my God, that sounds so beautiful. In Napa Valley. In 2016, he was named one of FSR Magazine's 40 Under 40 Rising Stars. He's currently the chef owner of Brazen Open Kitchen in Dubuque, Iowa. And so, while he may have gone home earlier than he wanted, and let's be fair, unless you win, that's always going to be the case. He did have the honor of being sent home by Eric Ripert, so there is that. But there's so much more, I'm sure, so let's get down to it. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, our guest this evening, the chef owner of Brazen Open Kitchen, who will never want to hear the words La Réveillon de Noël, I screwed that up, uttered again, Chef Kevin Scharpf. How's it going, sir?
Very good, man. Thank you. That was quite the intro. I need to record that, and anytime I walk into somewhere, I want to play that whole thing out.
You tell everybody that's the way you want to be introduced from here on out.
That's my WWE intro. I don't want to start. I want a beautiful poem that's just been written about me. That's perfect.
You got it, man. You got it. And the good news is we're recording it, so we're set already.
Great.
All right,
Thanks,
man.
John. I'm super excited to be here, man.
All right, awesome, man. Well, thank you for taking the time to do it, folks new to the program, folks who have listened to every episode, but drink frequently and can't remember anything. 3 sections of the program: starters, mains, and afters. Starters, we're going to talk about where the chef in question came from, what brought them to present state. Mains, we're going to talk about what they're doing, where they're going in that 5-year window that's always in question. And finally, afters, a little bit more irreverent, a little more off the cuff, but no one's been injured in 93 episodes, 92 technically, because this is 93 episodes, and I don't see it happening tonight. So without further ado, Chef Kevin Scharpf, talk to me about where and what you grew up eating.
Oh, man. I grew up in a small town of about 3,500, Galena, Illinois. It's a super tourist town from Chicago, so a lot of Chicago people love to come our way. We're about 3 hours west of Chicago. We're this beautiful old lead mining town that's got a really nice historic downtown, and the food is very fitting for what you would expect for being a tourist town. It's not horrendous by any means, but it's not your like culinary destination. So I grew up really not being able to enjoy that food. Kind of like a middle class family that just had hardworking parents, and my mom and dad really didn't have interest in cooking. So we ate a lot of Hamburger Helper, a lot of Frozen Jack's pizza. I believe I've gone through about 3 phases in my childhood of loving them burnt, and then loving it like just perfectly, crusted, and then I even liked them like almost raw at one point. So that's kind of like the history of Kevin eating as a kid. Not very impressive.
No. That's totally impressive. And at the same time, you have your brand. I think almost every area has their own brand of like the frozen pizza that you're used to. Over here, it's Elio's. I know there's been mention of other kinds, and you are not the first Top Chef alum to mention frozen pizza as a go-to staple. Please, take that as a badge of honor. That's being raised on frozen pizza is pretty freaking awesome.
Well, but hold on a second. Frozen pizza is like a gourmet meal. If it was just like a regular meal, that was pretty much cereal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'll give a Cinnamon Toast Crunch their props because
CTK.
Quite some time. So
yes, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I just said CTK, Crunch with a K. I'm an idiot. CTC. It's been a long day. I'm snowed in. Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I truly believe, and I have yet to be proven wrong by the company that makes it. I forget if they're General Mills cereal, I think they are.
Yep.
I believe they infuse the powder at the bottom of the bag with heroin. I haven't gotten a call and been proven wrong, because I'm going to tell you something. When you get to the bottom of that bag of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Kevin, have my back on this one. Are you not almost licking the plastic clean?
Absolutely.
Oh.
And you have this fake energy for about a solid hour when the crash is what's really rough with Cinnamon Toast Crunch. You gotta pace yourself. Be careful. Don't eat too much. And just ease through it.
We're not even a question into the interview, and we're already crashing and burning. Oh, you gotta worry about the after effect. Oh, the crash. Like, God, there's nowhere to go but down from here, Kevin. That's awesome. Awesome. So, different situation growing up, not as certainly culinary present as you are today, but talk to me about what kind of eater you were when new things were introduced. Did you go with it, or did you shy away from it?
Well, Shawn, to be honest with you, I'm kind of like a rare bird, man. Cooking for me, it was something that I found just passionate on the back end to produce the food and to just create art with it and all these different things. I loved Bob Ross as a kid, man. Happy Trees. However he made those streams coming out of the mountains that blew your mind.
We don't make a mistake. We just make happy little accidents.
Absolutely.
I have 3 happy accidents, Kevin. They're called my kids. All right. Anyway.
That's great. I won't say that because my wife will kill me. So I am going to say that mine were definitely just great on purpose. So,
sure. Of course.
So that really is kind of a unique way for me to have gone into like being a chef or culinary minded. And the reason why I kind of tell this story is because when it comes to eating food, it takes very little to satisfy me. So I'm not someone that's a food snob. I'm not going to go out there and like pick things apart and be like, oh, this isn't right, or I don't like that, or this should be this way or better. Because I really grew up, unfortunately, just having to feed myself to get full. And I don't know at what point did I learn the appreciation for it. And I think it was the hard work behind it, and working in a kitchen is what eventually made me appreciate what food meant, tasting the food, why you taste it, because I loved hard work and I loved, going the extra mile. And so it kind of just all came together as I grew up and maybe matured and found a way to appreciate food in a different way.
See, that's really awesome because, I hate to harp. I get it, guys. Bourdain's been gone for how long now? But I've gone on, and Kevin, I know we're just kind of meeting. Bourdain was, for me, the summit to my mountaintop. Because of this show, I've been fortunate enough to become really good friends with Beth Aretsky, Grill Bitch from Kitchen Confidential, and she actually had me over to cook an event with her. It was pretty cool. But Bourdain was an example of that too. He always said, he's like, there's all this highbrow shit left, right, and sideways. But my favorite thing is when somebody invites me into, say, maybe their grandmother's home, and she's making like her meatloaf. Now, it's nothing that was in a book. It's nothing that was in a published X, Y, or Z. But it's that heart, it's that soul that comes behind it that really kind of carries it forward.
For me, it's almost envy because you hear so many amazing stories, and I swear every time you watch a Netflix documentary on chefs, or it's out there everywhere where they're like, my grandmother was, from Sicily, and she always made, scratch pasta in the kitchen every single Sunday, or, I'm the third generation of some kind of something food, and it's incredible, and they were around it their whole life, or, their mom and dad or their grandparents were owners of already a very successful restaurant. And so when they were kids, they got to run around and they were in the kitchen and helping. I have none of that. Like, I don't have even an ounce of, something to kind of, just be inspired by your own internal family doing these things. It's something that I kind of had to learn the hard way of just going out there and finding it myself. So I think out of envy, I almost love when I hear those stories of people being able to have those kind of stories. But then again, I'm kind of proud to, have renegaded it almost in my own way. So
yeah, you totally found it yourself. You didn't have it. And honestly, it's not me just trying to relate to Kevin here on the show, but I really didn't grow up with any kind of mast and sail that said, hey, food's important. I came into that on my own too. Like, I started to see people of certain cultures enjoying certain things that I wanted to be a part of, and I just chose to step out of my, white, I wouldn't even say suburban, I'd say more country upbringing, and venture into it. And it was the greatest step I ever took. And so, like you, I always find those stories to be so heartwarming. Just that, like, there was so much love coming across on a plate, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you come up, and obviously you choose this path, and I can't wait to hear about how you chose this path. But looking back, was there somebody or a bunch of somebodies who maybe made you realize food could be more than what it was? And I mean, this could be, you mentioned Bob Ross, which is kind of cool, because for me, watching public television on a Saturday morning instead of cartoons was how I started realizing there was more going on. So who was it that really kind of gave you that nudge that food could be a little more than just feeding myself to be full?
Yeah, I would say celebrity chef-wise for me, it was definitely Emeril Lagasse. And the reason why I feel it feels a little cliche to say that, but that's my age. I'm 32 years old.
Yeah.
When I was a kid watching TV, that he was the face. I think he had 4 different cooking shows. So it went from Emeril Lagasse Live to Emeril Lagasse in my own kitchen to Emeril Lagasse. The Food Network was just 4 or 5 straight hours of Emeril Lagasse. So definitely who I watched on TV, and that's where it started to why do I enjoy watching this? No other kid my age talks about food. Nobody talks about, cooking at home. Nobody talks about, seeing this guy on TV. But for some weird reason, when I'm watching this, I'm enjoying it, and I like it, and I don't want to change the channel. So definitely that's kind of where it started TV-wise. But, man, like I said, I came from a family where if you wanted something, you had to go get a job. So my very first job was dishwashing right next door of the house I grew up in for a catering company. And I absolutely loved working hard. I wanted to outwork every single person that was in that kitchen, whether it was dishwashing, whether it didn't matter. I wanted to scrub the floor better than you. I wanted to sweep better than you. And so doing that job, and after a year and a half, I think I was only 16 years old, they put me out on my first catering gig. And I would say that was the moment where I was like, man, I'm 16 years old and I'm at a catering gig of about 50 to 60 people by myself. I packed everything. I drove there. and I cooked this event without any adult supervision. So that
wow.
was probably my moment. Yeah, that was the moment of my life where I'm like, I think I'm kind of meant to do this. Like, I don't think they would just send. I know what my 16-year-old friends are like. None of them are doing anything like this right now. Like, not even close. Like,
wow.
with the responsibility. So I would say a moment like that for sure.
Yeah. Wow. And you bring up such a good point, and we are removed via age by a couple of years. I'm not going to let you know how many. I'm 41. But I can remember, and I don't know, with you being 32, you might not remember the earliest days of Food Network, but when it was out of a couple apartments in Manhattan, and I don't know if you recall a show called Taste on Food Network.
I don't think, I don't know if I do.
With David Rosengarten, and I bring that up because David Rosengarten was my original Great White Buffalo for the show. I swore I was going to track him down, and I finally got him, and I finally talked to him, and I mean, I can remember, like, so many kids my age were watching MTV just coming out, all Beavis and Butthead, music videos, this kind of thing. I'm up late night watching How to Make a Perfect BLT. PBS, public television. I'm watching Julia Child, Justin Wilson, the Cajun Guy, Martin Yan Can Cook, and great chefs of the Northeast, of the Southwest, and so on and so forth. And I can remember getting the ridicule, as I almost feel like, without knowing for sure, you got the same thing. Like, why are you watching that? That's ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know that you love something when that can't, like, derail you. When you might be getting some snuff for some things, or, maybe, it makes you feel a little bit awkward that, like, you're the only one that's really, digging on this, but you just don't care. You know that you love it then.
Yeah, totally. And I actually have, and when we wrap here, I'm going to go up, I'm going to take a picture of it. I have a cast iron skillet that my mother got me when I was in 6th grade, and she got me the Fanny Farmer cookbook and the cast iron skillet. And do you know I still finish steaks off on that bitch today? It's to this day.
Man, that's impressive. Man.
It is really seasoned impressive. Like you would not believe, man. But that's just, you said it perfectly. Honestly, 93 episodes, you probably put it as best as I've ever heard it put. You can't derail somebody when you know it's your thing. And yeah, man. Sorry. Sorry, this is about you, not me. All right. Okay. All right. Moving on. So, you had that moment then with the catering gig, and here you are, 16, you said you were?
Yeah.
And rolling it out all on your own. And I mean, like, I've cooked for 5 people, and it's a bitch. So I don't know how many you cooked for. I'm sure it was more than that. So that catering gig probably had a big push behind you. But when was it you realized, like, hey, I'm going to school, I'm doing this full bore, full time, this is what I want to be? Was it that moment, or was it another moment?
So I love using the reference. I love sports. I'm not one that's ever going to keep a memory bank of things, so it's very unfortunate that I can't ever be like, oh, in 1985, this is who won this and all that. I'm not like one of those encyclopedia guys whatsoever, but I just love the general idea of sports. And so I use the 6-man analogy all the time. I was always the 6th man in every sport in high school, and it drove me nuts because I was good enough to be on the court or on the field or whatever you want to call it, but I was never really good enough to be like the starter or the star. And so it was when I got my first line cooking job at a resort at Eagle Ridge, which is the major draw to Chicago, or from Chicago, I should say. And it was being like just 16, I got that job after the catering gig, and man, I got on that line, and it just felt right. It's kind of like if you walk into a court in a basketball and you start dribbling and you're good at it, people are like, man, that's the point guard. Like, we already know that person is going to, like, dribble the ball the most. He's going to lead this team. It was kind of like one of those weird scenarios that once I got on the line, like, I was neater than everybody else around me. I was a little bit faster. Yeah. When I was sauteing, things seemed normal. Like, everything was just normal to me. Nothing was like, but I don't get that. Or why would we do it this way? Like, everything just, I watched, I absorbed, and I did. And it just, I don't know, it was just this weird thing. So it was definitely that job where, I mean, I don't know if I ever had like a split-second moment where slow motion in a movie and everything's like, whoa, the climax is coming. It wasn't quite that dramatic, but I knew from a very young age that I'm going to culinary school, and this is what I'm going to do. And I don't know what it means, but I'm going to be the best at it, or be the best I possibly can be. And I'm not even kidding, Shawn. I've never wanted to do anything else in my life except for being an electrician for about 10 minutes, and that went away real fast. So I'm very fortunate that I found it. It clicked at that age, and I've never looked back. It's all I've ever done.
That's awesome. That's listen, and I know there's some podcasters out there listening. If you're looking to make a podcast, that's the kind of moment you want to have, because those are the moments you want to hear about. You want to hear the heartfelt, this is what I've always wanted to do, especially when you're dealing with something as potentially, it's both an art and a science, cooking. But like, you've always been in that pocket, and to hear it and to see it on screen. And I mean, again, I had Nini on last episode, and I was bitching up a storm that she got taken out too soon. I think the same thing's true with you. There's so much more that's there. So if you're ever in Dubuque and you got a couple hours to spend, get over to Brazen Open Kitchen, for the love of God, and see what Kevin's doing. Because, when you've always wanted to do something your whole life, I think it's going to be a pretty magical experience, to say the least. So,
for sure.
Anyway, passion moment aside there, we as a viewing audience of Top Chef, we as a dining audience in Dubuque and beyond, are certainly glad that you stuck with it, that you did it, that you went to Minneapolis to do the gig, and here you are today, chef owner, Brazen Open Kitchen. Tell me in 30 seconds or less, what's Brazen Open Kitchen about?
Hospitality.
Love
Being genuine and offering real hospitality. It's the number one goal.
Love it. Love it, because I think it's easy to say for everybody that, we take care of our guests. Well, might be easy to say, hard to actually do. And I think it takes someone like yourself who's wanted to do it their entire lives to make that happen. What is it in particular that Brazen attends to that others don't?
It's caring, and I don't want to say nobody else does it, but it's the one thing that we preach. It's the one thing internally I talk about all the time, is without these customers, we have nothing. We mean nothing. And it's genuinely caring about them and wanting them to have the best experience possible. And I give this analogy all the time, and they hate it so much, but I always tell the staff, imagine if these people were coming into your home for Thanksgiving, whether it's family or friends, what would you do? I would hope that you'd want to greet them at the door. I'd hope that you'd help them hang their coat. And then I'd hope that you'd show them, to where you might be dining, or where the hors d'oeuvres are, or where they can get a glass of wine, and probably offer to get it for them. And I just walk them through an entire scenario of what I think you should want to do for a friend, for a family member, or for even someone that you're just meeting for the first time, but you want to just get to know them. If any of that is genuine whatsoever, you just know what's right. And that's what I care about the most at the restaurant, is making sure that everybody feels like they're wanted, and that we understand like what they're looking for, and we want to give them what they're looking for. And so that just goes through so much more than, us chefs in the back trying to have egos and, well, we're going to produce the fanciest this, or we're going to, do this thing that's crazy. I don't know if they're going to like it, but it's not about that. It's about me wanting to do this food, and they should just like it because this is who I am. And I'm the one that's dictating, where this food scene's going in this town right now. Like, no, not at all. We want to, create food that people actually want to eat. We want to create food that's going to bring them back. Ultimately, I own a business, and I want it to be not only busy, but busy because people want to be there, and they love it, and they enjoy it.
All right. So 2 quick points, people listening, culinary students listening. I know there's a good number of you. Thing 1, if you are thinking about opening a restaurant, working in a restaurant, being anywhere near a restaurant in a professional capacity, I want you to put the last 2 minutes on loop in your earbuds until you believe it. That was the most profound an accurate statement on the true core concept of hospitality that's ever been said on this show in 5 years. Absolutely beautiful, absolutely spot on. Thing two, that is exactly how you portrayed yourself on the show, man. I know in talking to Nene, her biggest worry, she's like, well, I just want to make sure that I came across as a nice person. I'm like, holy shit, you couldn't have come across nicer. And then she tells a story about her grandmother killing her pet bunny. You have to listen to that if she didn't tell you.
Oh my God.
It's frightening. It's terrible. It is really awful. I've been shocked before on the show. I literally was sitting behind my mic with my mouth open and dry, like, what did I just hear? I felt violated for a moment. So, in any case, that truly came through on the show, post-production, everything like that. So again, you should be extremely proud of everything you're doing. So speaking of what you're doing then, let's talk about Brazen Open Kitchen. Let's talk about the incredible menu, which I'm not going to ruin the surprise, people. If you want to go out and find it, brazenopenkitchen.com. You're on the Insta, on the Facebook under the same name, so check it out. But talk to me, Kevin, about where you get the inspiration for what you're doing there, because it's amazing. It really is. It's making me want to drive to Iowa, and I don't know that I've ever said, hey, you know what I'd like to do? Drive to Iowa. But now I have a reason. So talk to me about where you pull that from.
Yeah, Brazen's special to me because sometimes it's unexplainable. Things just happen, and I think that's when like things are clicking. Let's go back to the basketball reference again, like the Warriors. Like, who would have ever thought when they put that team together that that ultimately is what was going to happen? Now you add Kevin Durant, whatever. Like, we'll leave that for another time. But what I'm trying to reference though is like Brazen was just something that was real. I already told you what we set out to create and what we wanted to do there. But then when it comes to inspiration and what moves you and what creates food, it's really just listening to your guest and being in tune with your surroundings. By no means do we try to preach this major farm to table because it's unfortunately becoming cliche and making us miss the true meaning behind farm to table and actually miss what importance there is beyond just going to a restaurant hoping that they're buying from the farmers, but maybe they should buy it from the farmers themselves. Once again, that's a whole other conversation. So Brazen is just something that, you're out and about. What are you inspired by? We don't do seasonal menus, although we put a season on there. I talk a lot about we do inspired menus based on what's happening right now. So, just because it might say summer's, say, June, 5th, that doesn't mean anything to us. What is the weather really like outside, and what's really happening with our crops, and so on and so forth. And we wait for those to be at their best, and then that's when we go after that inspiration and try to draw that into our menus, And so we don't try to follow a rule book. Our menu might have a little Asian influence on it. It might have a little French influence. It might have a little Italian. All that matters is that we invest in the technique. We're learning. We're teaching ourselves how to, just care for the product and, do it the best that we possibly can. There's always two roads or a fork in the road with two lanes that offers one the easy way and one the hard way. And I tell my staff all the time, I don't care if it's the same outcome in the end. We will choose the hard way every time because it's going to teach us the most about ourselves and what it took to get to the final product. And that's just the way it is. Some people would be like, well, that's bad business. If you could do it the easy way, why wouldn't you, cut some corners? Well, because it also builds character and builds other things besides just, doing it quick and easy. So my staff, I think, has a love-hate relationship for me when it comes to those things.
Well, it's honestly staff, coworkers, everything can be just like kids. Like you tell them it's going to build character. Eat your broccoli. You're going to be healthier for it. Do you know how many times I've cursed my own father for being right? And it's funny, the older I get, the more I curse him for being right. And so there's something to that. Just being aware of how right that voice can be, despite it being uncomfortable in the moment. That's just, man, I mean, I've got you on the show, so I don't need to kiss ass or blow smoke or anything like that. that's a refreshing perspective to take on the industry. An industry especially who's all too willing, and again, just because it's in my recent review, Nini and I talked about farm to table and what a kind of term of convenience that's become. Oh, well, we're farm to table. Well, no shit. Pretty much everything's farm to table. The produce does come from a farm. Do you know where it really comes from? And yet, here's you taking that and making it mean so much more.
Yeah, it's I had to learn the hard way, because when I first opened Brazen, I was 28 years old, and I was so gung-ho about, I am going to open the best farm-to-table restaurant. And that was about the time where farm-to-table was already, obviously happening and blowing up. But this was, probably the peak of, farm-to-table, really just any restaurant had to just go buy one thing from the farmer's market. And then they plastered farm-to-table all over their menus.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm going to do it better than anybody. Got into the restaurant, we got everything going, and within 2 months of not being able to get a hold of the farmers, or the farmers not really knowing what they should charge, and being 400% higher than what I was getting from Cisco or Reinhardt, and then they would tell me that they'd deliver on Tuesday, and then they wouldn't show up until Thursday, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This system's broke. There's a lot going on here. And Shawn, I am from Dubuque, Iowa. I am in the heart of farm country.
Yeah.
I'm not in New York City. I'm not in Chicago, Minneapolis, LA, where they've got farmers that need to travel 3 hours into the city to then be able to offer them something. I can drive not even 15 minutes from my restaurant and be on a pheasant farm, or be on a pig farm, or that's how broke it is in that small of a microscopic area to not be able to get this thing rolling. And so I've come up with my own little slogan at the restaurant. When someone tries to use that word, I'll say, well, let's work on farm to community first. And they'll be like, well, what does that mean?
Woo!
Let's get the community behind buying from these farms and truly supporting this, ecosystem, if you will, before we put all that pressure on a restaurant. Why is it our duty to be the good, righteous ones that buy all our products from these small farmers, but yet the rest of you guys get to go to the grocery store and get all your stuff from Mexico, California, New Mexico, and not have to have any of that burden of supporting locally, and really help drive this engine. So now, anytime anybody ever wants to have that conversation, I always bring that up, and it always leads to a very oh yeah, of moment. Well, maybe that does kind of make sense. Well, no, it doesn't make sense. It makes a lot of sense. It's just the way it should be.
Yeah.
So,
no, you're absolutely right. And again, I think we're such a label-based society in general. It's well, what can we call? Can we call this a diet? Can we call this a thing? Can we call this a phrase? Farm to table became just this catchphrase that everybody hung their coats on. And I'm not trying to blow up anybody's spot, but I've had people on here who have said farm to table. I'm like, the fuck you are. You are not. You have nothing to do with farm to table. You get your stuff from a farm, which goes through a vendor, which goes through a producer. But you're not farm to table. I think your term, Kevin, farm to community, that's an incredibly brilliant term for what's going on.
Yeah. And I tell you what, farm to community and farm to school. And with kids, I know you can appreciate that conversation. I mean, I don't understand how in the Midwest, and especially some of the areas that we live in, how about a curriculum for all fifth graders in every school district should have, how does every school not get an acre donated to them? And they have an ag class. They should learn about agriculture, man.
Yes.
They should learn about, what does it mean to grow a seed into something and to nourish it and then to go harvest it. And then to learn what it means when you have shitty weather.
Yeah.
You have floods, you have droughts. Kids, all that shit you see in a supermarket, that's not real. That's not reality. You know, us being outside right here in our own element is reality. And I'd love for us to spend more time investing that idea into our kids, because I think that's when some incredible things are going to start happening for us, over some time. Because that's where the creativity comes from, is when young kids are inspired by things and they can work on it, and it stews in them over time. One of my favorite children's books is called What to Do with an Idea. And I used to read that to my daughter all the time. It was about this little, gray, kind of cloud/bubble thing that would follow this kid around. He's like, I don't know what to do with this thing. I think it wants me to feed it. But my kids are all my friends are making fun of it. And, all this stuff. Man, it's so real.
Dude, it's you and me in the cooking shows. People were making fun of it. What do you do with it? You stick with it. Don't let it go. Yeah. Oh, my God. Oh, that's so solid, man. And it's 1,000% on point that this should be part of the curriculum. I don't know how much, of the Top Chef history you have under your belt, but if you remember chef testant Giselle Wellman, she was, I want to say 5 seasons ago maybe, but she is the culinary director of a Jewish academy in California. And I'm gonna, you'll hear some typing, you'll pardon me, but I've had her on the show now twice, and I had her on after she left San Diego Jewish Academy. I had her on after she left the restaurant gig, because now she's helping these school kids grow farms, plant, grow, harvest, make lunch, and she said she is the happiest she's been. What better lesson can we give? I don't mean to break out a format here, because I'm way off the questions and I don't really care, because this is amazing. What better lesson can we give than, hey kids, and believe me, my kids know, when you walk into a supermarket, this is only 20% of what they harvested, because the other 80% is in the dumpster because it's not pretty enough. And yet there's people hungry in the area.
Yeah.
Let that stew for a minute. Why? It doesn't make sense. I think if the youth coming up had that understanding, and if the people working in the stores had that understanding, we'd have a more pronounced, I guess, ugly produce program than we do right now.
Well, for me, I think we would have kids having realistic expectations, and they'd be able to learn how to set their sights on realistic goals, because right now we're taught, even from something, it's so funny how food can affect us so much, and we don't even put the value into what's right in front of us. You walk into a supermarket and you see all these things perfect. Everything's pretty. And this goes for everything. Everybody wants to look pretty, so the magazines do the same thing. And, that movement's starting to where, it doesn't always have to be that way now, but just sticking with food, man, not only do we start that, so now every kid as they grow up, they're just used to going into a grocery store, and they don't even know it. This is subconsciously happening that, all their stuff looks perfect. Nothing ever has a blemish on it. Oh, it's got a blemish, take it off. But on top of that, hey, we live in Iowa, and there's pineapple and papaya and mangoes and all these amazing tropical fruits. Why? Why do we have those? We've grown to expect it. We've grown that, well, what do you mean why? We can get it, so why not? Because you know how much energy it takes to harvest that pineapple and get it all the way to Iowa? It's the most unnecessary thing in the world when we have some of the largest, agriculture land in the world around us right now. So we can grow what we want, but we choose not to, because we'd rather ship a tropical fruit in from, thousands and thousands of miles away for what? Because it's so unnecessary.
No, you're right. You're right. The expectations, the age of convenience, the age of I want it now, I want it bigger, I want it more, I want it louder, I want it whatever.
Thank you, Amazon.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, Amazon Prime. Oh, awesome business model. Way to make people have unrealistic expectations of things that should take time, take effort, and occur at certain points. Shouldn't be always available. So, man, all right. I know who I'm hanging out with if I ever go out to Iowa. We're going to be miserable together, you and me. We're going to bitch about the world.
There you go.
We're going to shake our old fists in the air. Mine is 10 years older. Thanks, Kevin. What's going on?
Your wrinkles will just show a little faster.
Wow! Come on, man!
We're fine.
Damn! He went right for the wrinkles. I was just...
Well, I'm balding, so for what it's worth, it doesn't matter. Whether I have hair, whether I don't have hair, it doesn't matter.
Oh, Kevin, you're balding, and I'm balding 10 years faster than you, I'm sure. Anyway, it's funny though. We were talking about farm to table, and I got all excited, and then we got completely sidetracked in the best possible way, because farm to table can be considered such a trend, if you will, and food in and of itself can be trend driven at times. What do you see as the next, I don't know, big thing coming down the pipe in food? Do you see a trend coming down? Is it here already?
Yeah.
Oh, what's that?
Well, I think it's already happening. The book Noma Ferments obviously just came out. I honestly think that all these things that we're discussing, Rene Redzepi and his team have found a way to make something that's so historical and so important to our society that we've almost eliminated 100% from our diets, besides some sauerkraut, and now that kombucha has come back.
Yes!
But besides that, though, like, how important fermenting truly is to us and our bodies. I honestly think that chefs, even myself, I consider myself still a young chef, even though, the true young chefs are all those little 20-year-old punks out there working the Alenias and everything. But as a young chef, I'm even re-energized and inspired by like books like that. And I think fermentation is something that a lot of us thought was too scientifical. I think that we thought it was a little bit too far outside of like our element. Like, that sounds like taboo. Like, I don't think like I should be messing with that. And to know that it's so simple, and lacto fermentation is as easy as 2% salt to weight, and then however you want to do it, whether it's a vacuum pack or putting it in a jar, like all these things. Man, not only can that become a cool fad that I hope sticks, because it's actually good for us, and if it's done properly, could kind of create a pretty cool movement in being able to not have all this food waste, and to learn how to preserve, and to just do things that we should be already doing, but we don't because we're lazy. But if we can make it cool and turn it into a fad, hell yeah. 2019 is all about fermentation and having less food waste.
The year of fermentation. You heard it here. Kevin Scharpf, he called it. And I'm going to send you, I'm literally like back channel sending you links left, right, and sideways. One of my earliest episodes, I got to tell you, so I used to teach English, and one of my first episodes, earlier episodes I should say, was with one of my former 6th grade students turned kombucha entrepreneur, and it has been an amazing education. The hour that I spent with her, the stuff I learned about fermentation, I had no idea. Like, I knew beer because I brew like a little bit, but that's not really what we're talking about here. It's taking it a little bit beyond that. Holy shit. It is, like you said, it's charted, but it's still kind of uncharted. I think there's so much to be learned, and I love it. 2019. Kevin Scharpf called it. I believe it. It's the year of fermentation. It's the year of stop throwing food away. Let's start paying attention to preserving food.
Right on.
I love it. I love it. How about the elephant in the room, the trend that is here that you want to see go away? You want to see die a fiery death and just get out of here? There's got to be one.
Man, that's a good question, because for me, it's a little bit like looking at something half full versus half empty, and I honestly try to avoid that thought as much as I can. So
Fair.
I don't let things irritate me, or I don't let things really I don't know if I have a major one. The farm to table one, I feel like you brought like the best overall thing out of me for sure.
Yeah.
That probably bugs me the most, but sous vide cooking, although it has its roller coaster up in the upper echelon of not going away and coming, but like, you would not believe how many people I've hired who have no idea how to braise like a short rib, but yet like could sous vide a chicken breast or a pork loin, or they can sous vide anything. I have tons of patrons that have come in a lot less now because they got the jewel and they start sous videing at home, and so as much as I love it done in the right context and for certain things, like, man, I wouldn't mind that being like something that isn't so like accessible, like, let's make these people cook again. Like, let's go back to learning how to cook, because it's kind of important. So there you go. That's my answer.
I don't even know where to go with that. I'm so thrilled with this interview. I'm sorry. I don't typically get excited about But that's such a spot on answer. And sous vide has been one, I don't know, for probably the past 10, 15 episodes where I've kind of been like, all right, who's going to call this bullshit out? Who's going to say that, like, oh, well, yeah, I can put something in a warm water bath and cook it to a temperature with a piece of equipment in there, or I could put it in, a high-sided dish in a 425 oven and braise it appropriately. And that makes me so happy, Kevin, that you're calling out. And it's not to say that sous vide doesn't have its place. I'm sure it does, and I'm sure you believe that it does.
Shawn, it does. I have 4 of them running in my restaurant at all times.
So there you go.
For very specific things.
Right.
We don't vacuum pack every single one of our proteins, and then they all get sous vide and then just marked and out the door. Like, we braise our short ribs, we confit our shanks. We're cooking food. It's very important.
You will never get a braise or a confit finish out of a sous vide. And listen, I'm ignorant. I didn't go to school. I don't do this professionally. I get called up once in a while to teach a class, to go cook a gig, and I'm glad to do it. I don't know it. But Kevin, I think you have my back here. You're not going to get the same finish. You're not going to get the same outcome.
Not at all.
Thank you.
There's a few things that the chicken breast is the one thing that I love. If you ever hear like the OGs of our culinary world, man, they will say, roast me the perfect either chicken or roast me the perfect chicken breast. And it's like, man, like there's so much truth behind that, because I'm not going to lie, a sous vide chicken breast is really freaking good.
Yeah.
It's really good. But,
yeah.
And it's hard to obtain that by like actually just cooking your chickens the old school way. And they are so right, man. Like just cooking a chicken breast, and I bet you there's so many people that even have accolades that are probably like, man, they're so far removed from that world that I bet you it's not easy for a lot of people.
No. And I mean, the chicken breast, it's a temperamental piece of meat. It can dry out quickly, and it can. You're absolutely right. I'm trying to explain it to you. What the hell am I doing here? So Kevin Scharpf has my back, people. That's what I'm trying to say here. That, you know what? Sous vide is great technology, but like, hey, listen, you can cook a hamburger in a microwave. It's not going to give you the same thing as a grill. So let that settle in. So, all right, moving on. Kevin, talk to me about, what's your 5-year, man? I mean, obviously you're happy, you're digging life, you're doing what you're meant to do. What are you doing in the next 5 years? I mean, I can only assume Brazen Open Kitchen is as amazing as the day you opened it, if not more so. But what's next?
Organic growth. All I can ask for is Kevin's got a lot of ideas that are, exciting to me, and how I felt about Brazen originally, I want to be able to have the opportunity to expand on that, whatever that means. I just want to know that if I'm walking down a hallway with 10 doors, I don't want any of them to, shut and lock on me. I want to make sure that I have options and I can choose the path that I want and not be forced into, and ultimately just make sure that I'm happy and it's good for my family, and it's good for not only my home family, but good for my career family. The people that are surrounding me. I am big on giving opportunities to people who feel like they might not ever get them. Meaning a young 60-year-old executive sous chef that gets to run, say Brazen. If I were to go open a second restaurant, that then gives an opportunity to somebody who was a sous chef at another restaurant, and now they're getting a chance to step up. I love that. I was given an opportunity at a very young age. I had a lot of doubters, but I had a few people that really believed in me. And, the feeling of being able to succeed and, kind of do that thing that you love, but not sure if you're ever going to get there. Yeah. Like, I don't know if you can replace that with very many other feelings. So to be able to be the gifter of that and to be able to go out and, hopefully be inspiring and hopefully offer people some opportunities that really allow them to grow and grow their careers, that sounds really exciting to me. And that would be a great way to, if you had to create a legacy, if you're ever asked a question, what would be your legacy? I really hope it would be, to have given as many people an opportunity that I possibly could, whether they're still with me today, whether they've moved on to do even bigger and better things. I would be more than happy to know that I was a part of that, and that would be really, really cool.
That's cool. I'm just sitting over here fangirling over nice guy Kevin from Top Chef Kentucky. So, you know, if anybody wants to come pick me up off the floor because I've melted at this point, like, that is seriously some of the most selfless stuff I have ever heard in my 5-year career hosting this show. And the best part is, and I've said this left, right, and sideways about Top Chef in general, like, one of the greatest perks of this job is talking to people from a TV show. I mean, let's break that wall down. I'm a fan, and I'm getting to live a fan's dream to talk to people from the show, and then to talk to you and not only find out the representation on screen is accurate, but even more so, like, that is some of the most humanitarian-driven shit I've ever heard, man. And good for you. I mean, I have nothing else to say but good for you. And I don't know what that does for you going forward. But, like, wow, that's really cool, man. And anybody that works with you, anybody that works for you, anybody that works alongside of you is clearly lucky as shit. And I hope to God that the Brazen Empire only continues to expand as it should.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's hard with the next generations to, you know, just to be able to see like a 5-year plan or to see the big picture, you know, and I'm not going to lie, it's hard even as a leader to be able to show that sometimes. You know, you need people, you need the troops to rally, and, you know, hard work pays off, and it's so hard to convince people of that without, you know, feeling like you got to dangle a carrot. And I absolutely hate that term, and I think it's bogus because, you know, the people just need to know that good things will happen if they just keep their head down and keep grinding. So, you know, it's a constant struggle to get everybody to want to buy in and to believe it. But as long as you're there every day doing the things that you're saying that you want to do and they keep coming true, then I don't know how you can't get people to want to follow. So,
no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, man. You know, we were talking about the early days of Food Network, and now it's like everybody coming out of culinary school, well, they want to be on Chopped. They want their show. They want to beat Bobby Flay. They want to beat, you know what I mean? And it's like, no, that's not how this shit goes, kid. Get in line. There's a lot of you.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, if TV is what you're chasing, that's fine, but there's a really good chance that whatever you get to at the end is hollow, you know, and if that's what you ultimately want to risk, then by all means. And I like to make sure that nothing in front of me is hollow, that it's full, and it's full of meaning, and, you know, that's probably what's really important. And that leads us all the way back to the conversation of, you know, our kids growing up, they're misled into the things that seem to be important versus not important. So you can't blame them. We're harnessing, we're creating this energy. We're creating this, you know, facade, if you will. So it's not their fault that they're kind of going down these paths that kind of represent that. So,
no, you're right. You're right, man. You know, and at the end of the day, listen, how many yards you pass for isn't going to mean shit. But if you can plant a radish and you can harvest it at the end of the season, well, that's going to feed your family. So put that on ice and let it simmer. So, all right, man. So let's transition into afters. I swear to God, Kevin, I feel like we could talk for hours, and I don't think it would get old ever. And I swear, if I'm ever through Iowa, you better chalk out some time for me, because I think we have more to follow up on. But with that said, let's move into afters, a little bit more irreverent, lighten it up a little bit. I'm standing in your kitchen. Imagine it, if you will. What music do I hear?
Ooh, you probably hear either Dave Matthews or Head and Heart Radio before the staff gets there. That's just me personally. And then once the staff arrives, 90s hits will come on once in a while.
Nice.
I am not gifted in the music world. I have about 35 Dave Matthews CDs and then maybe one other band. So I'm an uber fan of Dave Matthews. Everybody else plays some pretty cool stuff, and it's sad. I couldn't even tell you what it probably is because that's how terrible at music I really am.
No, that's all right, man. Like what you love and love it.
Kitchen by myself. So
Nice. Yeah, love it and love it unapologetically. All right, next question. You're going to be stranded on a deserted island. Fictitious scenario, of course. We're not going to abduct you and do that, whatever.
Yep.
And you can only bring 3 foods or food type items with you. Inexhaustible supply, but only 3. What would they be and why?
Oh, man. I would say Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Yeah! Yes!
You can eat those with or without milk, so I don't even care. If I don't make milk, my other one, it doesn't matter because I can eat them without it. I would say, gas station pizza.
Damn, you're my spirit animal, Kevin.
And then the last one would be something that's got to be something healthy. I really like bananas. I'm gonna go with the curved tall and say bananas, man.
Nice.
Those are my favorite.
You're so much more responsible than I was. My wife interviewed me for episode 20, and she said, "What were your 3B?" I'm like, give me a cow for beef, bourbon, and a case of beer." And she looked, and she's a nurse. You have to remember that she's a nurse. She goes, "Well, you're gonna get colon cancer." I said, "I'm on an island. I don't give a fuck," to be honest.
I don't know if the idea of being stranded on an island is to try to live as long as you can, to be honest with you. So I quite frankly think that your answers were fabulous.
Yeah, see, I kind of went to the low side. You're all happy. You're all like, I'm going to have a banana. I'm going to be healthy. I'm like, goddamn, Kevin Scharpf, shaming me again. 10 years younger and clearly wiser. All right. Quick question for you. Have you ever caught Melanie Denea's My Last Supper coffee table book?
No.
Oh, my goodness. I love turning people onto this. And I swear to God, once either the coffee sponsor really takes off, which, by the way, we have a coffee sponsor of the show, the Mr. G Coffee Company. They have the Coarse Grind Roast. It's fantastic. I'll be sure to send some out to you, too. But in any case, once that takes off, I'm going to send everybody who's been on the show who hasn't heard of Melanie Denea's My Last Supper a copy of the book, because it is amazing. It's this big coffee table book, 50 chefs. She did a follow-up called The Next Course, and it's a wonderful photo spread of the chef in question with the same questions for each of them, and it all centers around your ticket's getting punched tomorrow, what's your last meal? And so, Chef Kevin, I ask you, what is your last supper? I mean, we can branch out too. It can be what you eat, what you drink, people who are there, music playing, all of that. So kind of just roll with it organically.
My last supper is going to be an acoustic set in the background of Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds playing. And it's going to be probably, I'm going to say it. This is going to be so bizarre. My wife's going to hear this and be like, what the hell is he talking about? But I honestly think my Midwest roots are just going to say, like, the most perfect prime rib.
Nice. There you go.
Just like a beautifully done prime rib with a nice glass of wine. I don't even care if it's expensive or cheap. Just wine, and that's it, man. Just some prime. I don't even really care if there's vegetables or starch.
Oh, so you're...
I just want to eat it. I just want to eat the prime rib.
You're worried about the banana on the damn island, but now you're like, I'll just take the wine and the beef. Good for you. Good for you.
It's over. Like, at this point, I have nothing more to look forward to except for just eating that steak right in front of me. So that's it. You got it out. That's the first time I think I've ever had to answer that question. And I don't know if the prime rib is just where my mind goes.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And last question, the simple list, but the most complex, I suppose. What is food to you in a single word?
Everything.
Oh, I love it. Any explanation with that?
It's just, I think throughout this entire conversation, I was on a cooking show based on food, and think about all the things that we just talked about throughout this entire show and all the places that it led us through, as a kid, as an adult, the places that it's taken me to the people that I've met to how it's affected me and it affects others, to how people gather, to how it's affecting the world. I mean, I can just keep going on. And guess what all of those things come down to? It's something as simple as food. That's everything. It means everything, and I don't think that we give it enough credit. So hopefully by making it such a statement that someday we can bring the focus back to something that should have everybody's focus.
Goddamn right. And you heard it here, people. You heard it here. It should have everyone's focus. No question, hands down. Chef Kevin Scharpf, thank you so much for spending the evening with me tonight, buddy. I know, both got the family action, but it's always a pleasure to not only speak with a fellow, culinary passionista, if you will, but, a fellow dad as well. I feel it almost opens up the curtain a little bit more into what our future is going to be, and I think our future is in the kids, like you said, and I certainly hope to see that we put a little more effort into that as well. So again, sir, I appreciate it more than you know. Thank you so very much.
Shawn, thank you, man. I had a blast doing this, and thanks for inviting me on your show. This was great. You
got it, man. And it's Brazen Open Kitchen, folks, 955 Washington Street, Suite 101, Dubuque, Iowa, 52001. Instagram and Facebook action, same name, Brazen Open Kitchen, 563-587-8899 for reservations and information. And again, Chef Kevin Scharpf, he'll never make he'll never make a dessert for Eric Ripert again, but I'm certainly glad we had him on this evening. So again, sir, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode number 93 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. With me again this evening, Chef Kevin Scharpf of Brazen Open Kitchen. Our producer this evening has been Johnny Leland Robinson, a.k.a. the Reverend Johnny Lamoria. Be sure to check out the soon forthcoming rebirth of Cinematic Pig's Feet with yours truly as co-host. Next episode will be number 94. We're going to take it back home. Stay tuned.